Welcome to the Timescales Interviews. I'm Grego, your host, and today we have a very special guest, actor Adam Martyn, who has just realized his own debut with Big Finish in a Doctor Who story called Red Darkness, written by Roy Gill. And this was just released yesterday as part of the brand new Big Finish 9th Doctor box set, Shades of Fear, with the incredible Christopher Eccleston. How's it going, Adam?
It's going well, thank you. And thank you very much for having me on Timescales. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you so much. I was so happy that you said yes and you were willing to, because this right here, your situation that you found yourself in, is exactly what this interview series is about. It's about inspiration, how people can reach their goals, in particular, becoming a new Doctor Who actor, because that kind of makes you immortal right there. So, am I correct that you are in Doncaster, England?
That's correct. Yeah, Doncaster is where I'm from, where I've grown up. So yeah, very much my home.
Okay, awesome. So how does it feel? I mean, how do you feel right now? How does it feel to have a Big Finish Doctor Who acting career to have begun and actually released yesterday?
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, it still hasn't. I found out about this in September of 2021. So it's been well over a year and it still hasn't quite sunk in yet. I thought yesterday, like you say, when it came out, I was certain. I thought this will be it. You know, it'll finally have sunken in that this is something I've done and it's happened. But I think because you get nervous, don't you? Like, it's exciting, you know, a project like that coming out. But, you know, the Doctor Who fandom has a lot of people. And I was like, oh, my God, what if everyone hates it? But I've had some really lovely comments and messages so far, which is very humbling and very sweet. So yeah, it's a dream come true, to put it simply. It's a dream come true.
Okay, and you're very kind to the fans. I saw what you were saying yesterday on Twitter. You were thanking people for the kind comments, and I went and downloaded that. I buy every single new Big Finish Doctor Who release that there is, and I listened to it last night. And yes, your acting is excellent, and
thank you.
I thank you for a really enjoyable new Doctor Who story. And Callan Linux, your character is Callan Linux. Is Callan Linux actually you by any chance?
Well, I guess in some ways, because on the when I first chatted with Helen Goldwyn, the director, I first got in touch with her because during the pandemic I was doing a podcast series just interviewing people I wanted to speak with, and you know, people had a lot more free time as we did in the pandemic, so people who I guess wouldn't be available normally were. And I was chatting with Helen about, you know, she's, as I'm sure you know, she's worked with Big Finish for a long time now. She's acted with them. She's directed. She's done it all, really. And just as natural conversation, I'm being an actor as well. We started talking about that. And just before the pandemic, I was meant to be the lead role in a brand new musical that was going to tour around here in Yorkshire. And by chance, that character was blind, so visually challenged. So that lodged in Helen's mind, she said. And then sure enough, when the wonderful Roy Gill wrote the script with a partially sighted character in mind, it must have sparked off in her head. So yeah, I think in that sense, he's very much like me. The fact that he has a visual disability, that's something I've had to, you know, grow up with and go through life with. And, you know, I'll make clear, my vision is not as bad as Callan's is described in the story, but that sense of, you know, that challenge that it presents regardless, and people sort of, you know, I think it's accidental. I know people have good intentions, but you know, when people try and do things for you that you don't need doing, but because they know you've got a disability, they think they have to jump in. It's that sort of thing. It's that sort of fighting against that. So yeah, there's elements of Callan in me, but he's also a teenager, and we were all teenagers once. So I think we can all relate to that sort of, you know, the angst and the wanting to fight against, you know, whether it's parents or authority figures, stuff like that.
That's interesting. You know, one of my best friends spent the majority of his life in a wheelchair before he died of, well, he didn't die of MS, but he had MS. It ultimately was not his doom, but he spent the greater part of his life in a wheelchair. And I remember his frustration in people thinking that he needed more help than what he did, because he
Yes.
was actually quite mobile,
Mm.
and he even ran into some people that saw the chair and then would think that he had a mental disability, which, you know, a physical disability is not related to a mental disability.
No,
So
for sure.
I like this new character, and I think that people really should go out and order this box set, and listen in particular to Red Darkness. That author Roy Gill just totally knocked the ball out of the park on this one, and people need to hear it. It's taking Big Finish Doctor Who in a really positive direction, and everyone involved in it, I was engrossed. I loved the story.
Oh, I'm
So
glad. I'm glad. Thank you for your kind words as well.
yeah,
It's very nice to hear.
yeah, my pleasure. It's actually surreal to be speaking with you now after after having my headphones on last night and listening to that story, because I got off into it. I was there. You
Yeah,
know, I that
yeah.
that was my Doctor Who escapism. It was achieved. I was there in that story, and it's wonderful. So
Yeah, it's
um
definitely testament to Roy's script because, like I say, I've had friends, who don't normally watch or aren't familiar with Doctor Who, but they said, "Oh, but we want to hear you in this story." And these are people who've, in some cases, never listened to an audio drama before, never mind Doctor Who. And I asked them, I say, "Oh, did you understand it? Was it clear? Was it all this?" And like you said, thankfully, they said, "Oh, we were really engrossed by it, really
yeah.
engaged by it." So I think that's testament to Roy's writing, Helen's direction, and all the other wonderful people involved, all the cast, the crew, the sound designers, etc. So yeah, it's been really great to hear that people, both fans and non-fans, have seemed to enjoy it.
Sounds like you may have recruited some new fans. That, I mean, that's fantastic.
It's never a
And yeah,
bad thing. Never a bad thing.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, Big Finish is I started listening to them well, I guess back in the late 1990s,
Wow.
there's an argument that Big Finish actually saved Doctor Who. Um
I'd vouch for that.
and
I'd
yeah,
vouch for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So love to Big Finish from here.
Mhm.
That's for sure. So Adam, can you tell us who you are?
Mm.
Where are you from? This is pretty much an open-ended question,
Sure.
almost philosophical. What do you enjoy in life? Do you have any hobbies?
Sure. So I'm an actor by trade. I wear many different hats at the minute. Anyone who works as like self-employed or freelance, but wearing different professional hats is something you have to do really to get by. But I'm mainly an actor. I also make my own content on YouTube, on the Adam Martyn channel. That's just mainly stuff I enjoy, like you say, things that I enjoy in life. I like history. I'm a big fan of history, particularly media history. So, like, the history of television or different TV channels. I mean, it's very, when I started it, all my friends and family going, "Oh, it's a bit niche, isn't it?" And I'm like, well, yeah, it is. But I always wanted YouTube to be a hobby. I'm very clear on that. Even though I produce a lot of content, I never say to myself, it's my job. Do you get what I mean? I always say
Yeah,
it's something I do for fun. And I want to make the stuff I want to make. I don't want to sort of pander to, any algorithms or anything like that. If I want to make what I want to make, and if people watch it, that's cool. If they don't watch it, then that's equally cool, So that's probably my biggest hobby. But yeah, when I can, I like to, might shock a few people, I like to ice skate. I did train as an ice skater for 4 years as a figure skater. Couldn't quite get there though. I couldn't land. When they do the pirouettes where they jump, spin, and land.
yeah.
I could jump, I could spin, I could never quite land except flat on my back. So, but yeah, I try and skate when I can. Yeah, and obviously listening to Big Finish. A lot of people think, partly because I'm a fan as well, they're like, "Oh, you must have, listened to Big Finish since you got into the TV show." It's not true. I hate to say it, but I was always aware of it. I would, like many in my generation, I think we all got into Doctor Who, in 2005 when it came back to TV, and a lot of us were watching it for the first time. And I got into Classic Who pretty quickly after that because my parents sort of showed me that, said this is what we had. And I was aware of Big Finish from, Doctor Who magazine. It was always promoted there. So I sort of knew what they were, but I think it was a mix of, being a child with not much disposable income and not really knowing what an audio drama was. I didn't get into it until Quite late, really. Not until I was an adult. But I'm glad I did, because it's some of those stories. I mean, a lot of the stories are good, but I listened to the early monthly range first. The early stuff, and some of that stuff is just like what some of the best Doctor Who fiction. Full stop. Never mind the TV show. So yeah, very glad to have gotten into it.
What was the Holy Terror? That was one of the that was one of the old. See, that right there, that'll never be outdone.
No,
absolutely.
Rob Shearman, man. Rob Shearman's work, because there's that, and then there's Jubilee, of course, which is just great. And then there was another one what was it Shirt Sew, I think.
Yes.
That's that blew me away, because I was like, this is so surreal, and you can see it as a TV episode as well, I think, but it works so well on audio as well. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the writers, obviously Fantastic Roy, John Dorney, Lizzie Hopley. I could go on. I won't do, but the list is almost endless.
Well, that is interesting that you are the you're one of the new generations of Doctor Who fans. Were you watching Rose live when it aired in 2005?
I was. I remember it very well, because I was 9 at the time, and I think about a week before it was on, we were watching something else on the TV. And do you remember that famous trailer, Christopher Eccleston going, "Do you want to come with me?" And then it was all that came on, and obviously at that time I was like, "What is this? What is going on?" And my dad, who had been, he'd watched the very first episode back in '63, so obviously he went, "Oh, Doctor Who's coming back." And then he looked at me, because I think 9 years old, that's like the prime age, isn't it, to get into something like Doctor Who? And he sort of said, "Oh, we should watch this." And as you did back then, without the social media and whatnot, the whole family gathered on Saturday night and we watched Rose. And pretty much by the end, when she runs into the TARDIS, I was like, yeah, I'm the same. I'm hooked. And that was it, really. That was the start of it.
Wow. So your dad started watching in the 60s. Did he happen to catch any of the episodes that are now currently missing?
Yeah. When I found out as a child about missing episodes, I questioned him nonstop. But going down the list, I was like, "Oh, you didn't see Marco Polo? Did you see the Daleks' Master Plan?" And of course he's going, "I don't know what you're talking. This was Adam. This was 40 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about." But I think he has memories of some. I think he vaguely remembers. Which one was it now? I use Marco Polo as an example, but I think he actually did remember bits of Marco Polo.
Really?
I mentioned about, going to China and meeting Kublai Khan, and he went, "Oh yeah," he had vague pictures in his head about it. Because I think he watched mostly every week, he said, during William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, here and there of John, as you do, you get older, don't you? And at that time, we didn't have social media, internet, etc. But he loved Tom Baker. He always says Tom Baker's his favorite Doctor, as many people do, quite rightly. But yeah, he says he remembers that first episode because, of course, it was the day after Kennedy, wasn't it? So he used that as his linchpin. He says, "I remember the announcement, because in the UK, I think we got it the next day, the delay in like getting news back then and all that sort of stuff." So he said it was literally, here's the announcement, Kennedy's dead. And then it was Doctor Who. And I was like, it's strange. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so that's I had started watching in the 1980s. Here in the US, it was broadcast on PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service. And it was Tom Baker and Louise Jameson were in the very first episode that I ever watched, which was The Horror of Fang Rock.
Oh, good story.
Oh yeah. Well, I was looking for some sci-fi because I had seen so many original Star Trek stories that I kind of had them memorized at that point. And I was looking for new sci-fi. So I opened what we had was called a TV Guide. It was a paper magazine that came in the mail. And that would show you what time you needed to be sitting in front of the television when that came on. And there were VCRs, but they were still pretty expensive back then. I think it was like $1,000 for a VCR.
Crazy.
And the thing is, with Horror of Fang Rock, there was this crazy-eyed guy and this beautiful woman, and I had no idea what anybody was saying. But it was scary. I couldn't understand the British accents at all, but I was instantly hooked. So let me ask you this. I'm glad you were watching Rose, because I've done about 20 interviews now, and I'm really surprised. Every single person I've ever talked to was watching Rose in
Yeah.
2005 when it aired live. So that's 100% right there
Oh,
still.
well,
So what is your background in acting, and weren't you in did you do some work with the Polar Express with Tom Hanks?
Oh, I wish it was with Tom Hanks. So my background in acting, I trained at a place called the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, which is in Liverpool, and it was a school founded in the 90s by Sir Paul McCartney, of all people. It
Wow.
was his old boys' school that he went to as a kid, and in the 90s, it was an old building. It was falling into disrepair. It looked like it was going to be knocked down. But he stepped in and saved it, basically, and opened his own drama school. So I trained there for 3 years. And it was, what I liked was, it was all kinds of acting we did. We did theatre, we did film and television, we did abstract stuff. We did a bit of everything, which I liked. I wanted to dip my toes in everything, because I think if you have a basic knowledge of all the different kinds, then you can grow from it. Whereas opposed to mastering one, but then not really knowing anything about the others. So it was a great training. And then from there, just trying to get acting gigs where I can. I did a lot in Liverpool at the time, the Polar Express thing. So I wish it had been the film. I really do.
Oh.
I would have been 8 at the time that film came out. I could have been one of the kids, I
Ah.
suppose. But what it was, so the Polar Express now has a live version on an actual moving steam train. We basically recreate the film in real life, which is pretty cool. And I played the hobo, the one who sits on top of the train. Sadly, I couldn't sit on top of the train for real because it was moving and health and safety. But I went up and down the carriages and did the hobo speech from the film. And it was a really lovely show because, especially, with children, the whole thing of Christmas and it being really magical, seeing how those kids they felt as if they were in the film. That was really special. So I'd recommend anyone who gets the chance. I think they do them in the UK and the US as well, different sites. So anyone who's got young children, but even if you don't have kids, it's a fun time. So yeah, that was my involvement with it. But again, I wish it had been the film. I really do. Maybe Hollywood remakes everything. Give it 20 years. I'll do Tom Hanks's part in 20 years.
Okay. Tom Hanks is really short, by the way. I ran into him somewhere here in California. It seems like a lot of these people you see on screen, you automatically think, oh, they're huge. And then you meet them and they're actually really short. And Tom Hanks is pretty short, actually. So how did you come to be, I guess you're the newest Big Finish Doctor Who actor, because this story was just released last night. And you worked with Christopher Eccleston, for God's sake. I mean, how do things like this happen to somebody?
Oh, well, again, I'd say a lot of it. I mean, it's for the acting thing as a whole. A lot of it is down to chance. You could be the best actor in the world and never work. It's just luck of the draw. I mean, as I said, when I chatted with Helen, it was from that she then got in touch with me. But a lot of people seem to think it was instant. It wasn't. I did the podcast with her in January 2021, but then it was September when she got in touch. So there was that gap there, and she just said, "I've got this part, and they're partially sighted. Would you be up for it?" And I was like, it's Big Finish. Of course, I'm down. And then she said, "Do you want to know which doctor it's with?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she went, "It's Christopher Eccleston." And that was mind-blowing for me because, as discussed, he was my introduction to the franchise. That was my first Doctor. That is what I thought of as Doctor Who. So just even the remote possibility to be working with him was insane. And then at that time, you couldn't have all the actors in studio because COVID here was still quite a big thing. So I assumed, I was like, oh, I'm new to this, to Big Finish. They'll want me to record from home. That's fine. They'll want Chris there, some of the other actors. But then Helen said, oh, no, and we want you in the studio if possible. And I was like, yes, nice. Yes, please. I would like to be there. So, and I mean, Chris is lovely, though. I mean, everything you hear, not a shred of ego on that man at all. He's the most genuine, down to earth, if you didn't know who he was, you would never assume he was, a famous actor. Do you know what I mean? He just comes across as a regular guy. He made us feel all at ease. We had great banter as well, because myself and Harky Bamborough, who plays Doyle, Callan's dog, we're both from like the Yorkshire area of the UK, whereas Chris is from Lancashire. And for anyone who might not know, there's always like a jokey banter, between the Yorks and the Lancs, because years and years ago there was a war. It's not that heated now, don't worry. But so as soon as Chris heard we were both Yorkshire, he's going, "Oh, I'm surrounded by Yorkshire people." And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're outnumbered today." So it was a great banter. You could banter with him like you'd known him for years. There was any fear I had of, oh my God, it's the Ninth Doctor, sort of evaporated within the first 2 minutes. It was a really lovely, chilled out environment to be in.
Wow, that's really cool. That makes me think of something where I was watching an interview with Nicholas. I think it was Nicholas Briggs. It may, but yeah, I think Nicholas Briggs was interviewing Christopher Eccleston there at Big Finish.
Yeah.
And I think he was taking fan questions or something like that. But the question was asked of Mr. Eccleston, why did you decide to come to work for Big Finish? And he gave the most honest, down-to-earth answer that you would ever expect. And he said, that is because I am an actor and I act for a living. Yep. And something to the effect that this is, how I put food on the table for myself and my family. Those may not be his exact words, but it was something basically very blunt, like that, and so honest that I was very respectful of his answer. So is he short?
No, I'm about, how tall am I? I'm about 5'9", 5'10". I'd say he's about 6 foot. He was slightly taller than me, but but I agree with what he said though. Like you said, I mean, as an actor myself, if a job comes along and you do it for a living, you've got to pay the bills. So, because I saw some people on social media sort of say, "Oh, he's not doing it because he's not doing it like for the love of it, or for this or that." I was like, yeah, but he's got to make ends meet, like you say. So I fully support that decision. I think as long as people give a good performance, which he does, of course, that's what counts. I think that's what people should be taken into account, not why he's doing it. No one goes to their regular 9 to 5 and no one well, why are you doing that? Just for the money? It's a no-brainer. It's like, we need to do it.
Exactly. Well, Christopher Eccleston is an excellent actor. All of you guys in this story I listened to last night just did outstanding. But with Mr. Eccleston being famous and being sort of immortal now as the Ninth Doctor, the performances that he's done for Big Finish, I have thoroughly loved. They each and every one of them takes me back to his era. When everyone was shocked that Doctor Who was actually back, because
I bet,
a lot of us that lived through that 15 or 16 years where there was no Doctor Who on TV, we didn't think it would ever come back. So that era is very cherished to some of us older Whovians, and his acting and his ability to portray the Doctor is second to none. And that is absolutely incredible. I am so happy for you that you got to work with him. That is absolutely excellent. So tell us, what was it like to walk into the hallowed halls of Big Finish, where Doctor Who history is made and recorded for ages to come? What was it like? How did it feel?
It was mostly exciting, but also a little bit nerve-wracking, because like you say, having listened to it, I know all sorts of Doctor Who stars have walked through these doors, and now I've got to somehow turn up and act, somehow. But again, the staff at the recording studio, very lovely. They don't make you feel, there's not that set. Sometimes you go to places where like you're the new one and you get that vibe that no one really wants to approach you because they don't know you. It was the complete opposite of that. Everyone made me feel very welcome. Other people recording other stuff, like not just for Doctor Who, other people were there as well, and everyone was just so chatty, so friendly. I mean, it sounds cliche, but all the stories, you know, you hear on the behind the scenes of Big Finish where they go, oh, we had such a lovely day and everyone was so nice. It is true. It's literally true. Because I think everyone's having fun. You know, we are there to do a job, of course, but I think because the job is so fun, everyone just feels really relaxed, really at ease, all that sort of stuff. It's just a really positive environment to work in. One of the most positive I've worked in as an actor, definitely.
That's really neat. It sounds like a group of really nice people, and they Big Finish has or had something. I think it was just called Big Finish Day. I think it's an event there in England. Did you ever go to one of those?
I went to the one last year. Yeah, it was
really?
It was in Derby in April 2022. And the struggle for me was, obviously, I'd recorded the story, but it was at a point where I wasn't allowed to tell anyone.
Okay.
So everyone's like, you know, walking around talking about Big Finish, and quite a few people are like, oh, I wonder where the Ninth Doctor series is going. And I'm like, I wonder where it's going as well.
Right.
It's having to keep it a secret was tough, you know. I think with anything like that, you know, especially when it's like a dream come true project, you know, your instinct is you want to tell everyone you know. But obviously, understandably, big, you know, the rules and all that sort of stuff. And I think I knew then, working out, you know, the trajectory of how often the releases were coming out, I think I'd worked out pretty early on I was going to wait over a year. And it got easier, you know. I think it was that initial month, though, when it's all new. I just wanted to tell everybody, but I didn't. I kept nice and quiet. But yeah, Big Finish Day was tough, though. Big Finish Day was really tough.
You know, you had mentioned earlier about lockdown, the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
And, you know, there are some silver linings of lockdown and the pandemic. First of all, Emily Cook did a beautiful job of keeping people entertained and just
absolutely
sane for that period.
Yes,
Doctor Who was really a crutch and helpful to those of us that were stuck at home. And I know that a lot of things ended up going to live streaming where they never had been before and probably wouldn't have been, like conventions. I think there were some conventions that went to live streaming. And Big Finish did a live stream of Big Finish Day.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
So I got to watch that here in America because, you know, I would love to go to a Big Finish Day, but
sure,
it would be really expensive and take a long time to
I
get
could
to
imagine
just to go to that event. And you know, if I had relatives in England or something, that'd be one thing. But that live stream is what made me realize that, wow, these are some really genuinely nice people, and I thought I was addicted to Doctor Who. Well, they really are.
Oh yes.
So would you call Big Finish staff a bunch of Doctor Who addicts?
Oh, absolutely. The best kind of Doctor Who addicts, though.
Exactly.
The one thing about Big Finish Day in person, it was the best thing, but also the worst thing for my wallet, was they have a sales room and they have lots of CDs and they're at majorly discounted prices. And it was an expensive day. That's all I'm going to say. Because you see one thing that like's been on your wish list and you go, oh yeah, I'll grab that. And then next to it, there's something else. And you go, oh, well, that's really cheap. And it just, the snowball keeps rolling. So yeah, I gave Big Finish quite a lot of money that day. So
well, hopefully you've got some of it back now.
Yeah, I think made some of it back. Maybe not all of it, but some of it back. So.
You had mentioned Helen Goldwyn, and I've heard her name. I've heard people speaking of her in a very positive light. I don't exactly know who that is.
Sure.
But I've heard the name, and you said that you met her on a podcast.
Yeah, so I've been listening to Big Finish a lot during the pandemic. I think, you know, as a lot of us did, to stay sane, like you say, pass the time, whatever. And I think it was just the stories I was listening to. She's in some of the earlier monthly ranges, you know, as bit parts, bit characters. And I really like what she did. And then in some of the later stuff, she directed them. or wrote them in some cases. So at the time, I was putting together a podcast where, again, it wasn't necessarily Doctor Who theme, but I just wanted to talk to people who I wanted to talk to, you know, people I wanted to ask about their work or whatever. And she was one of them. So I literally just sent her, I think I sent her an email, you know, just saying, hello, my name's Adam. I'd very much like to discuss your work and your career. And she very politely said yes. And that was it, really. But she's
Wow.
she's a wonderful human. I mean, she trained as an actor as well, and she's done all sorts throughout her career in like the theatre, musical theatre, and she's turned her hand to directing for Big Finish, and she's she's pretty damn good at it. So, but yeah, she's anyone listening, I highly recommend, if you type in on the Big Finish website Helen Goldwyn, it'll pop up all the things she's been involved with, and I'd just recommend you listen to the vast majority, you know, all of them. Why not? Yeah, she's really wonderful.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to check that out. I didn't realize that she had been an actor with Big Finish before. I knew that she had directed some. You know, I've like I said, I've seen the name, and that makes me wonder if I have some stories where she is acting in that, and I want to go check that out.
I think if memory serves, one monthly range I remember her being in is Doctor Who and the Pirates.
Okay, yeah.
I'm fairly confident she's in that one, I think. But I think there's like 2 or 3, because I think that was, I want to say Doctor Who and the Pirates was her first involvement with Big Finish, and then she's sort of, you know, kept up with them over the years. But yeah, and that's on Spotify as well for anyone listening. If you want to listen to it for free, I think they're still on Spotify, the first 50. So yeah, check out Doctor Who and the Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And SoundCloud. Big
Yes,
Finish has very generously put a bunch of free stories on SoundCloud as well. So, okay, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So you're an interviewer and a YouTuber yourself, and you interviewed Helen Goldwyn. And then ended up nailing a part. That's
somehow, yes.
that's crazy, man. That is really beautiful to hear.
Yeah, but that's the luck thing of the acting. You know, this is what I'm, you know, I didn't, at no point with any of the guests I chatted who were actors, you know, do you sort of finish off and say, oh, by the way, can I have a part in, do you know what I mean? You don't sort of do that. You just chat about what you do. So it was just luck, really. You know, she didn't have to give me the part. I'm sure there's a slew of great actors who could have done justice to Callan, but I think it's just the fact, by chance, I mentioned that I was an actor and that I had partial sight, that stayed with her, and it all ended up clicking into place. But yeah, there was no sort of, you know, pre-planning to this at all. This wasn't like a big master plan. It was just, I wanted to talk to a Big Finish creative whose work I admired. And then the fact that this has come of it is, like you say, it's a genuinely really beautiful thing.
It is. That's so awesome. You know, now, here's this next question I have here is part of this interview series, because the interview series is intended to try to find things that people have in common, that have become successful in certain areas. And it seems that we have a very fortunate, ironic situation here that turned out just exactly like what you would have wished for.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But from what I've found out in interviewing authors and actors and what have you, they don't all seem to have a Midas touch where everything that you touch just turns to gold and just goes the way that you want to. Seems authors and actors in particular. So there's a common thread which is called rejection. And I saw you touch on that yesterday on a video that you posted on YouTube. And when I saw you say that, I'm like, I need to talk to this guy right here, because that's exactly part of this interview series. So you have stated already on your YouTube channel that you have experienced rejection. I think you said you may try out for 100 things and 95% is turned down or something. I mean, that's just crazy. How do you deal with that when that happens?
It's a funny one, really. I think to really get adjusted to it, if you know you want to be an actor when you're quite young, you either have to be told or realize that concept early on, you know, about rejection. I think some children who get into acting, not me myself, I think my parents were very honest, because, you know, it's that thing when you say you want to be an actor when you're growing up as a teenager, you know, naturally some parents go, ooh, acting, is that as parents do, it's natural. You worry, don't you? Because you worry about prospects and all this sort of stuff. My parents were very supportive. They said, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. But they said, but be aware, it's very difficult. A lot of actors are out of work. It's not like this, the same A-listers who get jobs. It's not like that for everyone. So I think you need to be told that early on, because if you're under this illusion that every time you walk in a room, you're going to get a part, then that's when it hits hardest, So I think auditioning for drama school actually toughened me up quite a lot to it, because I auditioned for 10 drama schools and I think 8 of them said no. Wow. And when you're 17 years old and, everyone else is going to university, and then there's the idea that you might not, and you might have to have a gap year when you don't want to. Do you know what I mean? It's it hits you. And, but then thankfully where I went to, Lipper, they offered and said yes, and I accepted. But then it continued, you audition for parts in drama school, you don't get them. But then by that point, I was like, I've mentally trained myself where if I don't get something, it might be sad, but you got to keep moving. If you linger on it, that's when you're going to get upset about it. I've auditioned for things like big stuff in TV, stuff in film, stuff where I've gotten, pretty close, like to the final 10 or 5, and then get told no. And yeah, it's gutting, it's heartbreaking. But I think any advice I can give on rejection is you've just got to keep moving forward. Just keep moving. If you stand still with it, that's what's going to get you down. But I'd also say, if you can't handle rejection full stop, that's fine. Just don't be an actor. So that might sound really like blunt, but I sat on the audition panel at my dramas. After I graduated, they invite some of the graduates to sit on the panel to watch, new students try out for the school. And the amount of 17-year-olds who come in and audition, and I can just tell, they're the kind of kids who've never been told no in their life. They get everything they want, and I just thought, oh God, what's going to happen when you get that letter saying thanks, but no thanks, Yeah. So yeah, I think, you can train yourself to it, but you've got to be honest about it. Do you know what I mean? You can't, don't think every room you walk in, you're going to get the job. You can be confident. You can say, I'm prepared, I'm going to give my best, but but you can't be under that false illusion, I think, because it's not going to help you in the long run. So that's what helps me. But it is true, like 95% out of 100, you will get turned down because it's the simple math of there's too many actors and not enough jobs. That's it, really.
Okay. So of these 8 of 10 drama school rejections, were these hard rejections as in a written letter, or was it a cold shoulder as in being ignored?
A mix. Some of them did send letters saying, like, thank you very much. No. Some were cold shoulder. I won't say which ones. Okay. But yeah, some were cold shoulders where, 2-3 weeks had passed and you sort of think if they were going to get back in touch, they would have done by now. And the default excuse would be, oh, we see thousands and thousands of people. And it happens when you're acting, when you're applying for jobs, sometimes you just get cold shouldered, which I always think, even if you're seeing thousands of people, it won't take forever to draft up the shortest stock email in your life, copy and paste it to anyone. Do you know what I mean? I believe letting people know yes or no is so important. I'd rather have someone tell me no than just be ignored. I think that's worse.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So of the hard rejections where they were actually on paper or in text, email, or whatever, was there anything that you could glean from those to learn why there was a rejection?
No,
by any chance?
They're very. I have mixed feelings about it. I again, the default is, oh, we see so many thousands, we haven't got the time, blah, blah, blah. But most, especially with drama schools, if they write to you and tell you no, they won't give any feedback, which, is a bit detrimental, I think. Because like you say, surely, especially when you're young, 17, 18, you want to learn from auditions. You want to learn what you did right, what you did wrong, how to move forward. But yeah, sadly, and it's the same with acting jobs, actually. If you get told no, that's it. There's no feedback. The most you might get is, oh, we liked what you did, but we're moving in a different direction, which is, but no, feedback is very rare when applying for jobs.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for that.
No problem.
People will learn from this because, see, this media is going to be around for years. People will be able to reference this and look back at it. There may be kids that haven't even been born yet that might watch this in 20 years.
True.
and
True.
pick up something that they can learn from. So okay, so on the other side of the coin, let's move to the positive side of
Cool.
your success, where you've nailed some things. Particularly putting your name down in Doctor Who history forever. I mean, that's
Wow.
just crazy. So to anyone young or old that might aspire to be a success, such as yourself, somebody that may look to you in the future as an example of trying to figure out how to reach their goals,
Yeah.
and they may dream of doing something that you have, and they want to learn from you. And this is really open-ended. What is your best advice that you could give to them on the success side of the coin?
On the my best advice would be to be as prepared as possible. And what I mean by that is like when you're auditioning, a lot of the times you'll be asked to do a monologue, like a solo speech. I would always have maybe 3 or 4 monologues of different, kinds of genres or types that you know off by heart that you can just snap them out whenever. And when it comes to like being prepared, also make stuff. As I say, there's not enough jobs for all the actors, but if you've got, cameras on phones now are so good. Film a scene of yourself, like a TV scene, or record some audio. That there's so much now that actors can do themselves. Back in 20 years ago, if you wanted to film a scene, you would have had to go to a videographer, and pay a lot of money to have it done. You can do it on your phone now. Same with recording a voice reel. I sent my voice reel to Big Finish between Helen getting in touch with me, and me interviewing her. And that's another important thing to have if you want to do voice acting, a voice reel where it's a mix, like maybe it's you reading some radio commercials, maybe you reading a bit of of a drama, of a play, maybe of a comedy, maybe a bit of singing, just to show off your voice, the different things you can do with your voice. But again, the equipment, this microphone isn't the most expensive microphone in the world, but it does the job.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, that's it. I'd say when I say be prepared, just anything you can do, learn some monologues off by heart, make some stuff, try things out, because you never know when it might come in handy.
Okay, so do you again, this is really surreal for me, because I'm listening to your voice and I'm thinking back to the story I heard last night, and I'm like, wow, I cannot believe this. It's hard to believe. With you say voice reel.
Yes.
Do you have any of your sample voice reels online, or is that something that you just keep personally to present to potential employers?
I think if you go on, there's a website called Spotlight, which is the actors directory here in the UK. That's where like agents or casting directors, not all the time, but that is like the main hub, the first port of call they might look to. So I think on my Spotlight page, I think there is a section dedicated to media, and I think my voice reel's there. Or so you should be able to listen to that. My Showreels there as well. So again, filmed scenes, stuff like that. Because again, if an agent's looking or a casting director, it's a point of reference. They can see, right, we like the look of this person, because that's where it sounds so cynical, but it does start with the look. You could be the best actor in the world, but you might not look right for the part thereafter. It sounds horrible, but that's how a lot of casting directors go about their day. So if they say, oh, I like the look of him, I want to learn more, I want to see him act on camera. Oh, he's got a show reel. So that's what I mean about being prepared. Build up that library for yourself, so that if someone says, oh, I want to hear your voice, send me a voice reel, you've got it. You don't have to scramble then. So yeah, if you go on Spotlight, if you type in Spotlight UK, it should pop up. And then just type Adam Martyn, and hopefully I'll pop up somewhere.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm familiar with Spotlight. I have used that to do a little bit of research on some other people that I've interviewed. In fact, I have another actor I'm interviewing tomorrow, and I was able to learn a lot about her by using Spotlight. And it is an excellent site. Now, for people that are listening to this on audio, when you're searching for Adam Martyn, you're going to want to use his name, ADAM, for Adam, and his last name is spelled Martyn.
Yes.
So when you are searching, make sure to search for Adam Martyn, Martyn. And as he mentioned, that's going to be on Spotlight UK. And I think just typing Spotlight UK into Google should pull that up.
Yeah, should be the first result, I'd hope. But I always feel like when I have to say Martin with the Y, because trust me, I've tried just saying Adam Martyn and seeing what people write, and they always go for the I. And I get it, it's the norm, but yeah, it's Welsh origin, Martin with a Y. So yeah.
Well, it should make it easier to find because it's a more unique usage of it. I mean, that's
I was
really
shocked because my real, I won't say, but my real name, most actors, when they apply for that, they want to, ideally they want their real name, less hassle, you're not having to change anything. And so my real name is very common. It's very, very, especially in the UK. But I was amazed at the time when I searched, there wasn't another one. And I did think I was, but then I thought it's so common that I don't want it as an actor's name. So I changed it.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, that's a bugbear actors have. I'd say that's part of being prepared. Have a backup stage name just in case, because even if you think your name's not the most, common name in the world, you never know if someone else might already have taken it.
Right. Okay. Now, mentioning Spotlight and the voice reel, and then the what did you say the other thing is called? The video,
a show reel.
Show reel. Okay. So with you having a show reel out there, you are available to do film and or stage possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes in show reels are mainly consisted of scenes filmed as if they're on TV or film. Sometimes I've seen people have their stage performances filmed as well. You can include that. But yeah, mostly show reels are dedicated to TV and film. But like you say, casting directors use that as they're good on this show reel, I think they'd be good in the theater.
Okay.
But I think nothing beats an in-person audition. They are nerve-wracking, but there's no feeling like coming out of an audition feeling like you've done really well. Even if you don't get the job, coming out of that room and being like, yeah, do you know what? I went in there, I gave it all I had, and I feel good about it. They're the best kind of auditions.
Okay, that's really neat. I can relate to that because when I do interviews with people such as yourself, it's a pump up, and I'm kind of on cloud nine the rest of the day.
That's good.
Even if I make a terrible mistake. But so you are a YouTuber yourself, and I liked how you described your reasoning and motivation behind becoming a YouTuber. Because I think that word is a little bit too broad, and I think being a YouTuber should be broken down into multiple categories of reasons why. Myself, I had my kids say that, hey, Daddy, can we make some YouTube videos? Well, unfortunately, they're not old enough to do that yet. So instead of telling them no, I thought, well, why not just start interviewing some Doctor Who people, because that would be fun. And I can build a base of knowledge to where if they are interested in any of the performing arts in the future, that they can tap into it. So that's my perspective of being a YouTuber, kind of. And what else is there? I mean, if you're going to upload a video to the internet, you need to put it on YouTube, because that's the biggest thing there is.
Absolutely,
so with your channel, could you tell us about that? I haven't seen a lot of it yet. I did subscribe. I liked and subscribed yesterday, so I've done my job. But I haven't had a chance to look at a lot of your content yet, because I just ran into you online yesterday and said, hey, can I interview you?
It's all happened so quick.
Hours. Yeah, it was really quick. So tell us about your channel. What's on there?
So for the main channel, as I call it, is just my name, Adam Martyn, again with the Y. I've had that for over 10 years, would you believe?
Oh, wow.
The first 4 years, you don't need to watch that. That is the textbook teenager with a bad phone camera pointing it at something, and don't bother.
Practice runs.
Exactly, practice runs. But from 2016, I started getting a bit better with editing and trying out new things. And as I say, from there, it's just sort of been a hobby. The main thing on it now is, I guess, history related stuff, mainly around TV, other media like that. I do a lot of unscripted discussion videos where if there's a topic in the news, usually regarding media, that I want to talk about, I won't write a script. I'll just jump on, say my thoughts and upload that, but people seem to like that. I have a second channel called AMTV Now, which is about the Now That's What I Call Music series. I believe you guys have that in the States as well, right?
I don't know. That's a good
Oh, it's
question.
a
I'd
no,
like
it's
to
all right.
find out about that.
So here in the UK, it's a series of compilation albums that started in 1983, and at that time, that was the only way you could get like one album with like the biggest chart hits on at the time, and they've
Mhm.
just sort of kept that model going, and I think they number them, and I think they're up to 113 now here in the
Really?
UK. Yeah, yeah, and they've done loads of spin-offs. So again, that's something I'm interested in. So that channel's dedicated to that. And then AMTV Who, which, as people might guess, is all about Doctor Who. There is a
Mhm.
lot of Doctor Who on the main channel, but recently I wanted to, streamline everything. So make, a channel just for Doctor Who stuff. So yeah, there's all sorts on there at the minute. Some collection stuff like DVDs, Blu-rays, figures. Again, news sort of videos, about new box sets being announced or filming related things. And yeah, as you said, my video about the Big Finish role. So yeah,
Mhm.
so there's 3 channels. I know that's a lot,
Okay.
but yeah, if you go on the Adam Martyn channel, just Adam Martyn, the other 2 will be linked in there somewhere. So
Okay.
yeah, if you like learning about TV history and other bits and pieces, then yeah, anyone listening, feel free to check it out.
Okay, very good. I'll put a link on this YouTube video to that down below. And then plus you can put this video on your channel too if you want to.
Oh,
Um,
bless you. Thank you.
yep. We covered YouTube here, and I didn't know that I didn't see the other channel. I guess you're into music as well, obviously.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, big music fan.
Yeah. Do you play any instruments by any chance?
No, it's my biggest regret, I
Okay.
think it's one of those things, when you're a kid, and I think my mum actually suggested, oh, do you want to learn to play piano? And because I was a stupid 7-year-old, I was like, no, I don't want to play piano. Like, why would I do that? And now as a 26-year-old, I'm like, you stupid boy. So I was like,
Yeah.
no, because no, I do regret. And they say it's never too late to learn, but I do acknowledge starting from scratch when you're older is a lot more difficult than when you're a child. So maybe I'll learn one day a instrument, but no, I don't. I just I sing. That's part of my acting stuff. I do sing, like a lot of musical theatre. I'm a bass baritone, so a lot of the lower stuff. But yeah,
That's
no,
cool.
just music generally. I love a lot of music. A lot of genres really. I just think there's no escapism quite like music. I think,
No
obviously,
doubt.
audio dramas, TV shows, but I don't know. There's just something about listening to a good song and it
Mhm.
transporting you somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty special.
What a nice way of putting it. So,
Mm.
I got to ask, I know you were watching Rose live in 2005. Who's your
Yes.
doctor?
I
You don't
always
have to answer that if you
no, no,
don't want
no.
to.
I always break this into 2 because I do think it's important in my personal case. My favorite doctor is Peter Capaldi because I think I have never seen a better acting performance of that role than him. There was just something really special about for me, something very special about his doctor and the way he played it. And but like I say, my doctor, it's Chris because he was my
Right,
first one. So
right.
Chris is my doctor. So again, sort of shaking his hand for the first time in my head, on the outside, I'm going, oh yeah, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. Inside, I'm going, ah, that's my doctor. But no, yeah, Chris is. I think they always say, don't they? Usually, your first doctor is your doctor, isn't it? And Chris is very
Seems to be.
much mine. Yeah.
Seems to be, yeah. So I guess when you saw Rose live, there was
Mm.
did you have an aspiration when you saw Christopher Eccleston on the screen as the doctor that hey, I want to work with this guy someday?
Do you know what? I think before Doctor Who, I don't think I'd seriously considered wanting to do acting, to be honest with you. I mean,
Really?
again, I was only 9. You know what kids are like; they change what they want to do in life every
Every day?
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went through. I wanted to be an astronaut, then a pilot. That all the usual. Um, and I think because obviously I'd seen films and that, but I think with his Doctor Who, that was the first time I properly registered. Okay, this is an adult, but he's playing someone who's 900 years old. To a 9-year-old, that's crazy. And by the end of series 1, especially, I think I thought, you know what, I'd love to do what he does in terms of acting. As I'd love to do characters like that. And then I think that's what starts. So I always credit Doctor Who as being like the sort of as the show as a whole being the inspiration for wanting to do acting. But yeah, certainly Chris was one of my big acting inspirations, not just in Doctor Who, you know, so many things he's worked on. There's a brilliant, brilliant film, one of the earliest things he did, called Let Him Have It from 1991. And it's based on a true story. And his performance is phenomenal, like very down to earth, very gritty, very real. I think Chris is a very real actor in the sense that you believe everything he does. So again, Let Him Have It. Recommend that to anyone. Brilliant film. But yeah, so he's definitely one of my acting inspirations. I didn't say that to him in person because
okay, that was my next question.
Oh, well, people say, you know, I think it's easy for people who weren't there to go, why didn't you say that? You know, of course you should say that. But it's when you're doing it as a job, like, yes, you know, we have banter, we have fun, but it didn't feel like the right moment, you know, to just suddenly go, oh, by the way,
yeah,
you know, you're one of my, and I didn't want to, yeah. And we had such a good, the whole team of us there, we had such a good rapport. I just wanted to keep that going. I didn't feel like I had to, you know, there was no obligation on my part. I didn't feel like, oh, before you go, you have to tell him this. But yeah, I mean, it's on the behind the scenes. So if he listens to it, he'll find out that.
I guess he'll know now if he watches this. I doubt.
Well, yeah, if he watches this too. But yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong to do that. I mean, I know plenty of people who've done that when they've worked with their heroes, but I just didn't feel like I had to. I was quite content just getting on with it, really.
Well, you know, come to think of it, if you've worked with him now, he may see this. And that's, yeah, but fine. You know, there's a time and a place for things like that, and I see what you're saying. It wasn't the time and the place like that. It reminds me of when I got on a plane and sat down next to Robert De Niro, and I looked over at him. Yeah, I looked over at him. I'm like, what? And he put his hand out and shook my hand, said, Robert De Niro. I'm like, wow, I'm really surprised. And he said, people always are. And I didn't say anything to him for the entire flight.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was just he was reading a newspaper. I figured I better just leave this man alone. But
yeah,
so all right, now this one right here, I don't want to be setting you up for trying to get an answer that you can't answer.
No, sure.
I was going to ask, are you going to be performing Callan Linux in more Big Finish Doctor Who adventures with Christopher Eccleston? But if you were, you probably wouldn't be able to answer that.
Yeah, well, you're spot on. I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, you know, my fingers are crossed. I'd hope for. I mean, I said at the end of the day, we had Roy, the writer. He wasn't in the studio. He was on Zoom over the phone. And I sort of said as a joke, I was like, oh, you know, if you want to write more for Callan and Doyle, then I'm in. And he was like, yeah, you know what? He says, I'd be up for that. So, you know, at this point, I'd love to. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It could be, if it were to happen, you know what it's like with Big Finish people. Sometimes they'll pop up a few months later. Sometimes they pop up a few years later. I said to Helen as I left, I was like, if there's anything else, whether it's Callan, you know, or another character, if you want me back, whatever it is, I'm down. I'll do it. Okay. So yeah, watch this space, I'd say. But at the minute, yeah, I know as much as you, I'm afraid.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, that's nice. I thank you for answering that. I know that you guys have to be very quiet about things, and I don't want somebody to, you know, accidentally be answering something in an interview that they're not supposed to be talking about. This is a spoiler-free show. So so you know, I would love to see more of Callan. And I hope I hope he does come back. And then maybe at that time, maybe you could get a chance. I hear the Big Finish serves really nice food. So maybe during a lunch break or snack or something, you could actually finally tell Christopher how you feel about finally having the opportunity to work with him. Because, you know, I think that's really interesting that it sounds like Doctor Who and Christopher Eccleston kind of inspired you to become an actor.
That is absolutely the case. I just feel like, I think when you're working, even when you're having fun, I think I just thought, you know, you're here to work, you're here to do a job. Maybe if I'd seen him at, like, you know, a social event or, you know, a convention, that'd probably feel like the better time to share that with him. But yeah, well, who knows? We'll see. But just the thing about the Big Finish lunches, I'll let you in on a little secret, and this might surprise some. I think it actually got mentioned in the Vortex magazine that Big Finish does, but they're no longer a thing, sadly. So where they used to do them was another studio, and then I think Nick Briggs wrote in Vortex that due to the pandemic, and then from that, they've not been able to use that studio anymore where they had that facility with the lunches. So it's all like it's brought in, you know, they go to one of the staff goes to one of the cafes and brings stuff in. But yeah, I sadly missed out on the famous Big Finish lunches, but yeah, so never mind.
Okay. Well, you know, somebody tweeted a selfie today with Shuti Gatwa. I guess Shuti Gatwa was out filming today.
Yes.
Who's our next Doctor. And I'm wondering, how do you feel about the future of Doctor Who with, you know, David Tennant coming back for 3 specials? We've got Russell T Davies back. I guess you guys call him Davis. It's here the way it's spelled. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Davies, but whatever. Russell T Davies is back, and somebody, some fans have coined him as RTD2.
Yes,
you know, I didn't come up with that. I wish I had been able to coin that. But you know, so we're gonna have Shuti and Russell T David Tennant back. I mean, it seems crazy. How do you feel about it?
I'm so excited. I just think I always look forward to every new era of Doctor Who because it always, so far when I've watched, it's always felt fresh. It's felt exciting. I've had that with all the new Who Doctors, and even though David's coming back, it feels no different. You know, that trailer they dropped at Christmas, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be good. And then obviously Ncuti, I think, is a great bit of casting. Anything I've seen him in, he shine. Even, you know, when you see him interviewed, he just seems like the nicest man in the world and full of energy and life. And I'm just really excited to see what he and Millie Gibson as Ruby bring to the table. And the fact that people are seeing them shooting it's exciting. It's like it's happening. It's all happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was somebody yesterday leaked a clip of shooting where it showed Millie Gibson entering the TARDIS for the first time. It looked like it was shot out of an upstairs apartment window, and they put it on Twitter yesterday. And reaction, I'll have to send that to you.
Please do,
her reaction walking into the TARDIS, and then she comes kind of like stumbling out and is feeling the side of it, and then circles and walks around it. I mean, that is just great. And I too am very excited about the next era of Doctor Who. I like how each Doctor has an era, and they all become historical.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, Adam, I really appreciate your time today.
No, not at all.
Learn from this. When I saw you online yesterday, I'm like, man, I really want to talk to this guy. You were so kind, got right back to me, and I was excited, still am.
Bless you.
Yeah, and I am so glad to have been able to catch up with you. So is there anything that you want to add? Maybe something I didn't ask that you'd like to answer?
No, I mean, I think you covered your bases pretty well, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, but just again, thank you for reaching out and asking me. Thank you for having me here. It's been a joy chatting with yourself and answering your questions. And you know, I think it's always, to round off, like I appreciate you said that you felt I was very kind. I think, you know, kindness costs nothing, you know, in life generally. And I always try and live by that where I can, you know. And so when people reach out saying, oh, you know, can I chat with you for this or that? Obviously, provided I'm free and available, I'll always try and say yes, because I've been in that position myself, you know, reaching out to people, asking for their goodwill. And the least I can do is try and give back. So it's been more than a pleasure. Really has.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adam. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cheers from California, and have a nice afternoon or a nice evening.
No, thank you. Cheers from Doncaster, and have a nice afternoon over in California.
Thanks. I'll see you around on the internet.
All right. See you around.
Okay. Take care, man.
And you.